fish catching game at lunch. Of course, she fumbles a few times. She's one of those serious women who doesn't really like to be made a fool of, but somewhere she realizes she's having fun after all these years. She misses a lot of fish, but at the end of it, finally catches one fish barehanded and gets a huge applause for it. They go back after lunch, and after they go back, Mary meets the guy, the consultant that she met the first time around. Lonnie is his name. And Lonnie tells her, all right, you seem to have succeeded in bringing your people around here, which means there's a subtle shift. Now I'll share with you what are the next 3 lessons, but then not so simply. I think I want you to derive the lessons on your own. I would not want to give them to you. Why don't you come tomorrow over the weekend, bring your kids along, and let's see how we can discover those lessons. So next day on a Saturday morning, Mary Jane brings her 2 kids to the fish market. Sure enough, Lonnie's up there, 8 o'clock in the morning, all energized and trying to get the fish packed. Brad, that's Mary Jane's son, is very excited about seeing so many fish, and the market is still not open. They're still trying to arrange things. And he's very excited about the fact that Lonnie invites him to help him arrange the fish market. Big guy stuff for the little child. They go about, and Brad has great fun in trying to help Lonnie arrange all the big fish in neat stacks, put ice in them so that they don't stale off, and he has great fun. And at the end of it, when they go out and have a coffee and have breakfast, Lonnie tells Brad, now tell your mother, what do you think is the second lesson? And Brad obviously doesn't understand the context of it, so Lonnie says, what do you think you did in the morning? And he says, I played and I had fun. And Lonnie says, yes, and that's your lesson. The second lesson being, play. No matter what your context is, even if you're talking about work, we're talking about health, any other issue, once we've defined our attitude, what is it that we take in towards it? Can we take in an attitude of can do and therefore will put in effort? Once you've decided that, do not look at work as work, but look at work as fun. And once you start looking at work as fun, we can play around with it. Of course, you can create your little games around your work. Maybe start rewarding yourself for finishing a work on time. Tell yourself that, all right, let me finish this document by 4 o'clock, and I'll reward myself with maybe an extra bar of chocolate today. Are little games that we can invent for ourselves, and in a larger context, when we get together as a team, we can invent these little games for ourselves and have fun with work. And once you start playing, what is it that you start doing to other people around you? Encourage them to play. Mary remembers how Stephanie, that shy lady who was asked to play the fish catching game at lunch, how she responded to it. They asked her to play, and at the end of it, she was all energized because she hadn't played for years. She was a serious woman who had to maintain her image with her family, with her colleagues, and that was how her life was defined. And then she suddenly realized there's still that little child in her. So what they did through the play was, as you say, encourage others and make their day. And that's the other element of the philosophy. To make their day. And once we incorporate this culture of playing, making other people's day, involving them in their work, the most important element that runs through all of this is for us to be able to choose our attitude as we walk into any place, for us to be able to have fun, for us to be able to make a difference to others' lives. What we need to do is be there in the moment. And that's one thing that encompasses the whole of the philosophy. Be there in the here and now, in that moment. And once the whole thing sets into place, then, as Lonnie puts it, what you can do is start fishing. Of course, what happens in the story in the book after this is Mary Jane shares these learnings with her colleagues, and of course there is that initial sense of resistance, but then they realize that for some reason the visit to that fish market did strike a chord. A lot of them realized that there was a playful side to themselves which they had never explored for a long time. A lot of them realized that for some reason a lot of them used to buy fish from that market but never really observed what was going around. But there was so much to learn from things all around us, right? So even without telling her, a lot of them decided to go to the fish market by themselves during lunchtime, and they started enjoying those visits. After a while, Mary Jane decided to form 4 committees, 4 named under each of these 4 headings: choosing your attitude, playing, making their day, and being there. These 4 committees then decided to put up a presentation to make implementable plans that can change the culture of the 3rd floor. They were given 6 weeks' time, at the end of which all of them made their presentations. They made implementable plans as to how they can introduce the play culture at their workstations. How do they make each other's day? How do they make sure that they are there, present in the moment? And through it all, how do they change their attitude towards work and therefore start fishing at work, as he puts it? They make very practicable suggestions like having team games during lunchtime every other day, making sure that anyone who finishes work on time or goes beyond their call of duty is rewarded with a pin which says, "You made my day." Little things like that which really start making a difference, because people realize that the colleagues now care for each other. And through it all, the whole culture change at First Guarantee occurs, and at the end of the novel we realize that now the department has a different kind of a problem. Earlier it used to be a toxic waste dump, nobody wanted to work there. Now there are huge amounts of applications for people wanting to work in that department. Right? And that's the transformation that the philosophy brings. Now let's look at how do we apply philosophy, the fish philosophy, in terms of health, in terms of our well-being. How many of us think we are aware of our attitude towards health? Or do we even have an attitude towards health? Have you defined an attitude towards health?
In a way, like, I prefer to be healthy.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's a choice that you make to be healthy, right? And do we reiterate the choice?
And of course, like, do things which actually
Of course, once you've chosen that attitude, obviously you would start implementing it in terms of action as well. How do we define attitude? It probably starts there as far as personal well-being is concerned. What is attitude for us? To be positive is one choice of attitude, but what is attitude in itself? An approach, yes. It's a choice of response, again, yes. Come to think of it, attitude, if we have to define or draw an analogy to our personality as an iceberg, attitude would be what is under the water, right? Behavior is what is observed. It's the tip of the iceberg, but what forms the behavior is the huge part of that iceberg under the water, which is the attitude. Attitude, if you define it in a very psychological sense, it's a trait which is a repeated pattern of behavior towards a particular person or a thing or a concept, right? Which means we have a certain attitude, a certain repeated pattern of behavior, a repeated choice towards our health. We have a certain attitude towards our relationship, towards our work, towards a particular person maybe, right? For example, we tend to be, our attitude towards our boss may be to be submissive, but our attitude towards our spouse may be to be overbearing. Right? We choose our attitude depending on different people and different circumstances and choices. So often do we consciously define our attitude towards our health? Or is it lying there in the subconscious or the unconscious realm? Very often